Alright, welcome back to the program. In this edition of the show, we're working on this 200 series Land Cruiser 2019 model, last of the good years that had the V8 in it. The customer has contacted me. I did a bit of work for him a couple of weeks ago, and he's contacted me back because he is towing this weapon of a caravan down the Toowoomba Range and is getting a shitload of shuttering in his brakes. So this car actually only has 60,000 Ks on it, which is pretty cool, but it also does have the standard front brake pads and rotors. Now, obviously, it's not going to be in too bad condition, only having 60,000 Ks on it. And I did discuss with him before about a couple of options, but the reality is, if you're getting heavy shuttering through the steering wheel coming down the actual massive fucking decline, it's got to be the front pads and rotors just getting absolutely stinking hot. So essentially what we are going to be replacing the front brake pads and rotors with are the following. A DBA slotted rotors 4000 series, an absolutely excellent brand, an excellent quality piece of equipment that we're going to be throwing on the front. Couple that with essentially the best brake pads you can get from Bendix, ultimate four-wheel drive. These should perform absolutely awesome, but we're not done. We're going to be chucking in some new brake fluid, a Performance .4 from Castrol. So I believe this Castrol .4 performance fluid boils at like 250 degrees, so we're good there. And essentially this is going to really help with the braking performance and issues he's having when coming down that range, because man, if you put your foot down and your car ain't stopping and you've got a big trailer, an awesome 200 series Land Cruiser, which is kind of hard to find in this condition, you want to make sure you can stop. So let's throw this stuff in. Right, so car is jacked up. It has a jack stand under it, so we are safe to work. But when you pull off this cap for these aftermarket wheels, a lot of the time people will just go for any random bolt that's holding it on, which looks like it's correct, but there's only a couple that will hold it on. Generally you can see because it's got the paint peeled off it and it's showing a bit of exposed metal. So 1, 2, there's 2 of them. This is what I'm talking about. It looks like you can just go anywhere, but don't make that mistake. Put this to the side. Now we're going to pull this off. So what I'm looking at here is seeing what's going on, what sort of condition, where this, that, the other. You can tell these have gotten quite hot, obviously. You can see where these deep black swirl marks are coming through. Pads are wearing pretty evenly for the most part. Now the job itself is pretty straightforward, but obviously a few small and what I would consider critical things to remember. So we're looking at the pads here. Obviously they're not too bad, but if we got a shuttering rotor, we're going to be changing everything. But you can see here what would be called the anti-rattle spring. A lot of the time, because this style caliper setup is on Hiluxes, Prados, this, that, the other, this will be missing. And I find when this is missing, not only is it, I suppose, what again will be called as an anti-rattle spring, but this tends to push the pads off the actual rotor. And I've gone to jobs where there has been one on one side, on the other side it didn't have one, and the side it didn't have one was down to the metal on metal, while the side it did have it was like literally this condition, which was probably like 50%. So keep that in mind if you're doing this job. All right, so what I'm going to do is remove this 12mm bolt holding on this brake line. So we don't want to stretch it out, and we can actually move the caliper around. From there, before we remove the caliper from the actual vehicle, we're going to take out these 2 retaining pins and remove this anti-rattle spring, but also do not lose the actual pin that holds these springs in. Simply just grab the needle nose, pull this one out, from there, from here, place to the side. From there, it's just as simple as tapping these pins out. I'll remove the bottom one first, because then I can get this little spring here. Try not to bend it in terms of warping the position it's in. From there, we're going to knock this top pin out. Now there are a few ways you can take these out, but we're going to attempt to use this tool first because we are going to be bleeding the system at some point, so don't worry about brake fluid going back up. So chuck this tool here, because if you compress one side, generally it pushes the other side out, so you got to compress them both. And obviously you can do this with the actual brake caliper out, but this is what I'm going to do. Make sure to take the brake reservoir cap off. Alright, so that'll be good enough. We're going to pull this out now, like so. Inspect for any obvious damage going on. Same with this one here, and here we go. You can see a bit of damage at the top of this one here. So this has gotten super hot. So while it's mounted up, I'm going to actually clean in where the brake caliper is, just because it makes it a bit easier when it is mounted up. Just take a wire brush. With the pistons compressed, it shouldn't get in the way, and just go back and forth in there. So here's kind of what it looks like before. And this is somewhat of the after. Obviously I'm not done yet, but I'm going to pull this caliper off and then inspect it even more. Two 19mm bolts hold this caliper on. Now, as you can see, we do need to do a bit more cleaning because this ain't done yet. That's why you got to clean it, because imagine where this new dust has to go. It's got nowhere to go, it'll build up, and then you'll get all your issues with squeaking, grinding, rubbing, all this kind of crap. So just give it a good scrape down, give it a good wipe down with some brake clean. Inspect. Obviously the main points are here where the actual brake pads slide along, but that doesn't mean you don't want to give everything else a good clean. Alright, I'm going to put this to the side and we'll move this rotor. There's an actual hole in the lower control arm here. You can just put a screwdriver in and then put your brake caliper over that, because as you can see, this has no tension on it and we are not worried about damaging this line. So from there we got this rotor on. Perhaps this rotor will come off with a hit with a mallet, or perhaps we'll need to chuck a couple of screws in there. Let's find out. And it's off. Now obviously one of the main reasons is you don't want to be like say it's seized on there, you don't want to be absolutely smashing the shit out of it, is because there's a wheel bearing in here and we don't want to damage the wheel bearing. So use those two screws if it doesn't come off very easy, and if you find yourself, you know, with a 20-pound sledgehammer hitting it, that's probably not the go. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to inspect the rear of it, or behind. So the plot thickens what's been going on here with my customer who's watching me. So let me just get this shit off here. Do this in a well ventilated area. So I'm going to try and zoom in and show you guys after I explain something. So Mr. Customer, there is an indentation which is showing me metal on metal through this whole rear of this rotor. Can you see that? You see this pad here? Something's going on here where it is just taking chunks out of it. Perhaps just the heat got to it and it started to dig in. Who knows? It is extremely bizarre. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You can see at the top here, this ring is going all the way around. This is a indentation, metal on metal. Something's going on here. And here is the inside brake pad. So, understanding this, with the symptoms I was being given coming down the range, needing more stopping power, it's shuddering, it's shaking. At the end of the day now, this job needed to be done. So there's no speculation on, because it won't shake or shudder after this. That's just how I operate. I do everything right, as you guys see. But now we know these parts did need to be replaced, because we haven't even looked at the other side yet. So anyway, back to the video. Everything here is good. Very, very unusual that to happen. You know what I mean? To damage the rotor like that as well. All right, now we're not just going to throw the rotor straight back on. Obviously, we're going to be doing a couple of other little things before that. The face of this hub, it needs to be cleaned. It needs to be cleaned because we want the rotor to sit flat, to sit true, to avoid any issues of run out, which essentially is, in a massive exaggerated fashion, the rotor warping a little bit like this, not due to the issue of the rotor being warped, but due to the mating surface being dirty. So let's clean this. Very easy, only takes a second. A lot of people don't do it, but you want to do it, especially if you're doing the kind of driving this guy's doing. You want to do it right. Don't be shy, get in there. You're not going to damage anything. From there, spray it down with some brake clean, or brake cleaner, whatever you want to say. Wipe it down. Now, doesn't that look much better? Now, do yourself a favor and just run over it with your finger. For the most part, this hub feels pretty good. I just see a couple of little spots here. This is really clean now, but what I'm going to do is, again, some people might call this pedantic, I call it prevention. Just going to clean the rest of this backing plate as best you can. It's not full on dusty, but you can see here, these vents do obviously act as a cooling, but not only cooling, it removes a lot of the debris that comes off the pads. So just give this a quick little clean. Because again, you got to ask yourself, when the pads start to wear, where's this dust going to go? And if it's already built up everywhere, it's going to go nowhere but on top, and then potentially cause you some dramas. Again, it only takes just a moment, but look at the difference. Big difference. This cleanliness stuff is the difference, and when I go over the greasing, between these lasting potentially an extra 10, 15, 20,000 Ks. Now, this is clean. What we're going to do is take a small bit of anti-seize. Don't go crazy. Just coat everywhere a light film. It helps the next guy take the rotor off without smashing the shit out of it with a mallet. Number two, it does have anti-corrosion properties, so we don't have that build up, which will then build up under the rotor, potentially giving it a little bit of run out. Very rare, very extreme, I have seen it. And when this rotor gets stinking hot, this hub gets stinking hot too, so this just puts us in a better position all round for the vehicle to perform correctly. Now everything's clean, essentially everything's ready to be thrown back on. Alright, so we got the new rotor. Now, try to avoid touching the actual face of where the pads will be contacting. Now what we're not going to be doing is just soaking everything in brake clean, because we do not want to remove this protective coating. We just want to grab a rag, because the reason we're doing this is because this is coated in oil to prevent corrosion in storage. So we're going to go like this. I'm just going to wipe around the rotor. Yes, you've seen me in other videos just spray the shit out of the rotor, but that is not this rotor here, because this rotor, you do not want to do that. You can even see the coloration difference from wiping it down. Same thing here. From there, it's time to reinstall. Keeping in mind, we're trying to not touch the face of the rotor. So now that new rotor's on. A little trick, we're going to throw a lug nut on the bottom. Why? Because this helps installation. Now when you do this, don't really snug it up. Just literally have it just touch the face of it, because it can have a tiny bit of play, but now we're good to go. And that looks so much better. Right, we're going to be throwing this caliper back on. Pretty straightforward, as you can imagine. All right, everything's looking good. Now comes for installation of the new brake pads. Again, this is essentially the best brake pad you can get from Bendix. So before we're going to do all the little bits and pieces I do to this, I'm just going to test fit this, because sometimes those pistons aren't all the way back in. And that one goes in nicely. As you can see, it has this backing plate on it, a metal backing plate, which is important. But we're just going to chuck a tiny bit of grease onto the backing plate. And the reason we do this is it stops the piston from sticking to the actual back of the brake pad when you are driving, essentially, and everything gets really hot. The thing we're going to do is just a small film, and I do mean small, on the ends of this. Don't go crazy. That's literally enough. Because if you put too much, you will get excessive buildup. But we need these to move as freely as possible to get the best wear and performance as possible. Once this is done, we can reinstall it. Now let me show you something. When you reinstall these, they should just go in like this. That is telling me the pistons have been pushed all the way back in the caliper, and we are good to go. If you ram the bloody things in there, then you know something's either fouling, it's not sitting right, the pistons aren't retracted properly, you haven't cleaned the caliper right. It should be smooth, nice and smooth. So that's what we're going to do this side too. All right, so again, nice and smooth. Look at that installation. Beautiful. Got these two slide pins, bolts, whatever you want to call them. These need to be cleaned and a touch of grease reapplied. So this will be cleaned now. All right, cleaned, re-greased. This way. Still top pin. Make sure everything goes in smoothly. Bang. See how, look at this. See that? That's as smooth as you want everything. From there, we're going to install this anti-rattle spring. You can stuff it up and put it in either way. Put it in this way. And then you can do this. Bang, bang. Now that's sitting correctly. Reinstall the rear pin. That is somewhat in there. Let's stick that right there. Bang, bang. Now obviously these will move a little bit because the piston has not been compressed. Good. Chuck this bolt back in. That holds this brake line in position, and simply tighten it down. Now be careful when you tighten this, because that bolt can snap. Ask me how I know. That'll do ya. It looks awesome. Pump the pedal a couple of times, which is what I'm going to do now. The reason I'm going to do that is because then when I come back out, I can turn the wheel, or the hub I should say, and then you can get the final gauge on, is my brake pistons getting stuck inside the caliper? If they are, it is super difficult to spin, and you got to work out what's going on. And as you can see, she moves freely. Just as a note, the actual booster slash master is not vacuum driven. I suppose you'd say it's electronically driven. So the pedal won't feel perfect until the car is either in accessory mode or turned on. So keep that in mind. You can actually see on the inside of the rotor, the cooling fin technology is totally different as well. Your kind of standard style rotor. Pretty cool. Right, so ended up having to vacuum bleed it because pressure bleeder seal broke. The two-person method was not going to cut it, and old mate had an air compressor, so we used that and it worked perfectly, as you saw. So test drive, see how everything goes. Guys, I just finished test driving the vehicle. It feels absolutely awesome right now. It pulls up so good. Gonna throw you through the windscreen. Yes, I have my belt on. Now, got the customer driving it, making sure he's happy with everything, because at the end of the day, as long as he's happy, I'm happy. Yeah, there we go. Feels a lot better. Oh yeah, he says. But you already knew that.
You can notice the difference.
Yes, that's what you want to hear. This thing is a missile of a tank. So yeah, we went through essentially bedding in process, little slow crawl, kind of Macca's run, school run, shopping center pickup type thing. And then obviously he's having to drive, make sure he's happy with everything. And a little bit of a cruise back to his place, let the brakes cool down. But obviously with such high quality brake pads and rotors and brake fluid, it is designed to deal with the heat, the punishment. But obviously we're still going to be doing things that prolong the longevity of the braking system, because that is the whole point of doing it the right way.
Of course.
Very happy man. Now he can tow his caravan, and hey, he's going to have to let me know what the go is, because I need the customer feedback to make me better at doing my job, because that's the only way I can improve my service, is knowing what's going on, check in 6 months, this kind of stuff. Ask the customer what he reckons. It doesn't have to be a long one. Happy, unhappy, love me, hate me, which one?
Very nice. Good to drive. You can notice a large change, big difference.
Thank you so much. All right, just a quick recap over everything we have done. We use the best Bendix Ultimate brake pads, and we also use the T4000 dBA front rotors. This is a wicked combo if you're going to be towing, if you're going to be doing any sort of stressful driving that's not just rocking around the city, or if you have bigger tires, this, that, the other. I originally was going to just throw in some heavy duty Bendix brake pads up the back, but as explained before, I did some investigating. These are dBA rotors and brand new dBA pads. I don't know what the backstory is on that. I'll speak to the customer about it, but the braking system is working perfectly, especially from chucking in some .4 fluid. Customer is very happy. So at the end of the day, another job done, another happy customer. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, share, subscribe, check out the other stuff. If you want to get in contact with me, hit up this Facebook page here. Other than that, thank you so much again, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.